Have you ever noticed? Some people don't just struggle after failure. They seem to lose their sense of direction entirely. A goal falls apart. A plan doesn't work out. An opportunity disappears. And suddenly, they're no longer questioning what happened. They're questioning themselves. What am I doing with my life? Was all that effort a waste? What if I never succeed? Failure can be painful for anyone. But sometimes, the real damage isn't the event itself. It's the confusion that follows. Today, we're exploring the psychology of people who feel lost after failure and why setbacks often affect identity far more than most people realize. 1. They attach their identity to the outcome. Many people don't realize how much of their identity is connected to a goal until that goal disappears. A student sees themselves as someone who will succeed academically. An entrepreneur sees themselves as someone building a successful business. An athlete sees themselves through their performance. For years, the goal becomes part of how they understand themselves. So when the outcome falls apart, it feels like more than a setback. It feels like a piece of their identity has been taken away. And without that identity, many people struggle to figure out who they are supposed to be next. 2. They mistake a failed attempt for a failed future. After a major disappointment, the mind often begins making predictions, not just about the event that happened, but about everything that might happen afterward. One failure becomes, maybe I'm not capable. Maybe this will always happen. Maybe I'll never get where I want to be. The problem is that the brain tends to treat temporary experiences as permanent conclusions. A single chapter begins feeling like the entire story, and when that happens, hope becomes difficult to maintain. 3. They forget that growth often looks like failure first. One of the most difficult things about personal growth is that it rarely feels like growth while it's happening. It often feels like struggle, mistakes, uncertainty, setbacks. Many successful people experienced a time where nothing seemed to be working. Moments where they felt behind. Moments where they questioned themselves. Moments where they considered giving up. The difference is that they didn't view those experiences as proof that the journey was over. They viewed them as part of the journey itself. And that perspective changed everything. 4. They become trapped in self-doubt. Failure naturally creates questions, but sometimes those questions become endless. They replay decisions, analyze mistakes, revisit conversations, search for explanations. At first, this feels like reflection, but eventually, it turns into self-doubt. Instead of asking, what can I learn from this? They begin asking, what's wrong with me? And those are very different questions. One creates growth, the other creates confusion. Feeling lost after failure is more common than most people realize, because failure doesn't just challenge goals. It challenges confidence, identity, direction, and the way people see their future. But being lost doesn't mean you're finished. Sometimes it simply means the path you expected has disappeared, and a new one hasn't become visible yet. The uncomfortable truth is that growth often begins in those moments of uncertainty, when old plans no longer work, when familiar answers disappear, when you're forced to rethink who you are and where you're going. Because sometimes, the period that feels most confusing becomes the beginning of your next chapter.